one of the things that I was so enlightened to learn about through this process, and I do the community management and social media, so it's not in a lot of the sciencey side of it. But one of the things that I was so excited to learn about was like the process of actually getting booked onto a rocket, and how we do that is so cool. And I think everyone in this Zoom call would love to hear about what that process is like, and were you surprised by how the process works?
Yeah, so I've been in the space industry for a while. I worked on rocket launches at Planet, where we were part of a lot of rocket launches. So I had a lot of industry connections, and I have a lot of them. So a couple of a couple of our rockets were calling up friends that worked at companies, and getting them excited about what we were doing, and yeah, working on getting the capsule on their landers. And really the way it now is for going to the moon, there are several different companies that are building commercial landers, and these are essentially becoming like FedEx to the moon, where you can put a payload on them and have it delivered to the moon, and you don't actually need NASA's approval to send something to the moon. As long as even biological materials are allowed to be sent to the moon now. You can't send them to the ice-covered regions, because there's still a small possibility that there could be life in the ice-covered regions on the moon. But to send them anywhere else, you just need to have an agreement with the lander company, and they have to fly it to the moon. And we put the DNA all in a small capsule about the size of a coin. So it is a tiny fraction of what's going there. And then to go to the space station, I got introduced to people at NASA that work on this, and pitched what we were doing as far as it being a biosphere and a collection of Earth species in humanity, and they were excited about it. And so we went through a proposal process and then got accepted to send it up there.
Yeah, that's a really cool process. And just would you be able to tell us about the planetary deal that we signed with NASA kind of recently? Is that something that we can discuss? And we kind of advertised it on our social media a little bit. So I don't know if you want to just comment on how cool that was, because I know for all of us that was awesome.
The planetary deal? You mean the space station, or?
I might be miscommunicating it. Yeah, but the upcoming space that we have.
Yeah, so we were working to get to the space station. Most things that go to the space station go as cargo missions, but because we were small enough and the timing worked out right, we were able to get on the crewed mission with astronauts. So that when there's astronauts on board, it's a much more exciting launch. It's much more high profile. So it was exciting to get on the launch with astronauts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just maybe one or two more questions before we open it up to everyone. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Sweet. So can you tell us a little bit about the capsule itself, and what ends up going on it, and kind of the process of how you get the DNA onto the capsule?
Yeah. So we all provided a saliva sample. We work with a lab in Berkeley, California. That's a biotech lab, and they extract the DNA out of your cells in the saliva. And so we just end up with pure DNA. And then that gets embedded in this epoxy polymer. And then the capsule is a small aluminum disc about the size of a coin. And so, the DNA goes in there. We combine the DNA with all different species of plants and animals. We have 500 species right now collected. And that goes in this aluminum disc. And then, at least on the first landers, we're locating the aluminum disc under a bunch more metals. So that provides more radiation protection, because if it's facing outwards from the moon, it's more exposed. And then over time, we believe this capsule and this method of storage DNA will be recoverable for about 10,000 years, because DNA breaks up over time, and it breaks up over time on Earth. Scientists have found, decoded the complete genome from, I believe the oldest is a 1.2 million year old species, but we have the complete genome of woolly mammoths and Neanderthals and other species. And so even as DNA breaks up, you can piece together the fragments, because we include about 10,000 copies of every person's DNA. So even if they break in different places, then you can piece it together and have the full code. And yeah, so we believe it'll last for a while. And it is like, right now, scientists recover all different species, from DNA found in tree amber, or found in, they can even go up to the permafrost and take a scoop of permafrost and decode all the different species from there, like find different woolly mammoths and find saber-toothed tigers and all different species that once existed. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible what they're finding out about DNA. It's such a fast changing topic, and it's cool to be part of a mission that's sort of in the forefront of that. And so just one more question. So you mentioned kind of the moon landings earlier. I'm sure everyone has this on their mind. How are the moon missions progressing? And when that does happen, like, I guess the best way to say it, like, what can we expect from those moon missions? Are they, like, do you think moon missions are going to become more common? Is this something that you see going into the future is like a more regular thing? I'm just really curious about the kind of logistics of all of this.
Yeah. Well, to start off, we live in an incredibly exciting time for space and for the moon. I believe people will be living on the moon like permanently in the next 10 years. Once SpaceX's Starship starts going, then it's really like we have airplane rides to the moon. So there will be increased access to the moon. Right now, we live in this time where a few landers, government landers, have gone back. Like China sent one last year, and I believe India sent one last year. But there's been not as much progress on the moon. Over the next year to 2 years, there's several new missions that are going to the moon. There'll probably be like 3 or 4 missions that go to the moon over the next 2 years, and we're on 2 of those. And then these companies building these new modern robotic landers are planning on launching ones multiple times a year. So there will start to be regular delivery to the moon, and that'll start increasing. And then NASA and other governments and billionaires who are interested in space settlement are going to start sending a lot more stuff to the moon in preparation of people living there. As far as how our missions are going, mentioned this in the beginning, but Astrobotic is a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania company, and we share a payload with Arc Mission, which is one of our partners. And so Arc Mission has this like golden disk that has a knowledge archive of humanity, and we have a DNA layer inside that. And so if your DNA came in, I think by this time a year ago, then you made it on that mission, and that we're calling Mission 1. And so Arc Mission launches on a ULA, United Launch Alliance rocket, and that the latest we have is mid to late this year, but we don't have anything that's not public on that launch. They're kind of it's really between the landing company, Astrobotic, and ULA, and we do know that the rocket engines for this are made by Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos's company, and the rocket engines haven't been delivered yet. But Everything looks as though those engines are good, and it just is like getting them fully tested. And these are massive undertakings, these rocket launches. So yeah, the hope is that it's mid to late this year, and everything seems to be progressing. United Launch Alliance has stacked the full test rocket up without the rocket engines, and has done tests with it, but is waiting for everything to come together. So that's mission one. Mission two is Firefly, which is based out of Austin, Texas. And I've been to their factory. I went like 4 years ago, but they have probably like 400 employees now. So they're a full big scale operation. They're building small rockets and moon landers. Their small rockets aren't big enough to take their moon lander to the moon, so they're launching their lander on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. And that is planned for the second half of next year. And we don't have an official date on that, but everything, when I have our monthly calls with Firefly, they show their whole 3D CAD model, and everything is, everything's together and all there. And they've had their final design reviews or critical design reviews with NASA, and NASA signed off on everything because NASA is the main customer on it. And everything's progressing on that. And then the Falcon 9 rocket is a well-proven rocket. So that one is, that one's reliable and good. And yeah, and then if there's any hiccups on mission one, or if it doesn't launch in time, or if it crashes, or there's a problem with the rocket, which does happen, space is hard, and not all missions are successes. Then anyone's DNA, we save several copies until we get you to the moon, and that's how we have enough to send you also to the International Space Station. But we have an extra copy to send you on the Firefly rocket if you're on the first one and that one doesn't make it, or if it's delayed. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
I'd also love to introduce Shayna. Shayna's been on the team for a while and has worked on all things with our product and customers, and just has been a core teammate on all of it. Shayna, why are you excited about our big moon missions and all the rest? You're muted, Shayna.
There we go.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, everyone. It is really awesome to see faces. I've been working on LifeShip for about a year now, and my background is not in the space industry, but I have built businesses for the past 5 years. And before that, have worked on a lot of environmental issues and worked a lot in the sustainability realm. So, my passion here as well is, in addition to preserving a record of humanity for the far future, but is also preserving various forms of life on Earth for the far future. And all of us together are getting to contribute to a project in which we're doing something good and painting a positive vision of the future. And so it's really a pleasure to get to see all of you. And I know there's a lot of great questions in here, and I'm sure this is going to be a great convo going forward.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Shane. This is really exciting. There are so many great questions going off in the chat now. Ben, do you think we should open this up to some audience questions now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome.
Do you want to read these off in the chat, or do you want me to?
I mean, I can read them off in the chat. Does anyone want to ask their own question? I see a few in the chat here. If someone wants to raise their hand and ask a question, if you go to reactions, there's a raise hand button, and you should be able to do that, and then I can unmute you and you can ask the question to Ben yourself. Give you guys a second.
And you're all welcome to turn your videos on too.
Absolutely.
If you like.
Uh,
Encouraged.
all right, we have Roger here who's raising his hand.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roger Wells. I live in Peachtree City, Georgia. And I love space. I love everything about it. I love the imagination. I love the mind-blowing numbers that space represents. And the question that I have is, what is the long-term plan for the DNA on the moon? Is there an actual plan for, say, 100 years that somebody will go back and retrieve it and then do something with it, or is it just the idea of having it there?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Roger. So the big vision for LifeShip is an optimistic, hopeful, spreading life in the universe mission. So the big vision is to save the forever record of Earth and the blueprint of Earth to send to the stars. This first mission on the moon it's a step in that direction. And yes, it is like a record that could be used in the future. It's like the blueprint of Earth today sent to our great grandkids. And we know Earth is constantly evolving, and we live in a time of mass extinction and rapid change. So it is a record of Earth and humanity as we are today. Even humans are continuing to evolve, and things are changing quicker and quicker. And so it is a record and a backup of Earth today, but we are really emphasizing that that it's a hopeful mission, and it is towards leaving a forever legacy and eventually spreading and continuing life beyond Earth.
Righty, awesome. Now we have Pat. Pat's got his hand raised, Mr. Pat McNair. Hi.
Hi, I'm Pat McNair. I'm from Peninsula, Ohio, and I'm just wondering how many of us are going.
Yeah. Hey, Pat. There are 3,000 people on it right now. Yeah. And 500 species. 3,000 people and 500 species. I'll answer William's question because I'm looking at it right now. So is everyone's DNA mixed together in a soup? Yes, it is a soup. But it is scientifically valid, and scientists can pull a mixed like whole bunch of species out of the permafrost and unmix them, and scientists can pull many people's DNA out of a combined thing. And there's even we actually put all the information printed into DNA as well. There's a company that prints information into DNA. So instead of zeros and ones, it's ACTGs, and you can code information. And we actually have all of Wikipedia encoded into DNA, and you can actually do DNA computing where you can search for a certain name or a certain image within the DNA. So yeah, DNA, untangling the DNA is well understood, and so we believe it's the best method.
It's a cool technology for sure. You know what? One more chat question. Is a Mars mission being looked at for the future?
Yeah, so probably the first mission we could do with Mars is SpaceX and Elon Musk will likely send something there in either 2024 or 2026. And I hope we can get on that. We're not, we haven't begun that discussion. There are challenges with sending DNA to Mars. NASA has opened the planetary protection guidelines for the moon, where you can send anything to the moon, but Mars is still very protected, and there's a very good chance that life existed or may even still exist on Mars, like some sort of life. And so there's a lot more precautions around how we protect with Mars, and we want to we want to be good actors in space and follow all yeah, the accepted, agreed upon ways to send these payloads out to space, and also be thought leaders in leading towards spreading life in space. But we don't want to contaminate Mars at this point. So, and it is a questionable area whether DNA is considered a biological material that could contaminate. Pretty much anyone I've talked to and NASA scientists have said there's no chance you could send just pure DNA there and it could do anything. Like, DNA is not considered living, but it also is a biological material. There are other possibilities. We could sequence the DNA and send a digital archive as well. So yeah, we want to go to Mars when we can, but there's things we have to consider there.
It's like you said earlier, space is hard. So if we can turn over now to Adam Freeman, got your hand up. How are you?
Hey, how's it going? I don't know if my camera's working or not.
We can see you.
That's okay. Okay. I'm Adam Freeman. I'm originally from Texas, transplanted over to Florida. And so we see a lot of space activity over here. Real excited to be a part of LifeShip. And my question really kind of stems from, it was answered a little bit there, and thank you for that, Ben. But in addition to just like the DNA itself, is there other like instructions or other information embedded into that? And then in like what formats? Is it just in the DNA sequence, or like the Wikipedia DNA sequence too, or like what other stuff is, or instructions wise, is packaged in there with that?
Yeah, good questions. So we send the actual DNA. We're not sequencing any DNA at this point, and in our privacy agreement, we say we won't sequence your DNA. We might add that on in the future, but then we would get people's acceptance of that. So we don't. We're also sending pictures. We're also sending data. We're sending a knowledge archive of humanity. A lot of tens of thousands of books from collections, all of Wikipedia, and then we send all of your survey questions when you register, and then your profile and who you are and any photos. But those aren't specifically connected to your DNA. There are technologies out there that can look at your DNA and predict what your face looks like. So there's a possibility that they could be matched up in the future, but as of now, we don't have we're not decoding the DNA and connecting it with people's individual names or profiles. So also that does give a bit more privacy if this is found and you don't want your name connected with your DNA, then they're separated for now.
Awesome. The chat box is filling up a bit, so maybe we can turn back to that for a minute. We got a question here. If there is future legislation on the moon, oh, this is a wordy one, I'm sorry. For Tina, maybe if you want to raise your hand and ask this question in person, I just don't want to get it wrong. For now, I'm just going to scroll down a bit there. Can we go see the launch in person?
Yeah, good question. Yes, you can. There are public viewing areas at Cape Canaveral in Florida, and we're not specifically planning an event there in person at this point. We might on future launches, or we'll see. But as we get closer, if it does feel like a lot of people are going, then maybe we'll select a location or put a pin as places where a recommended place to go view. So yes, we'll provide details as we get closer as far as what good viewing locations would be, and may even select one for it.
Awesome. And another question that I've seen in here a couple times, and we get on social media quite a bit. Do you think that we will be cloned from this DNA?
There's unlimited possibilities that could happen from this. It's possible. It could happen now, and we could be clones of some other civilization that happened before. Yeah. The goal is that we're sending this out there, and that it's a record, and it's possible something happens with it in the future. We are going to put, and this goes into something from before, we are going to put instructions on it of what this is to be used for, and for it to only be used for good, that benefits the universe, and that's good for humanity. And but we don't know who will find it. It might be humans. It might be many generations from now. It might be another civilization. It might be what comes after us, or it might be another alien civilization.
Yeah, that's a good one. Roger, you have another question? We can unmute you here.
Yes, I have a question. Was there any data gathered as to who was interested in this, as far as all of us, who we are, what we did, what our interests were, any of that kind of thing, to create kind of a database so that there was anything common? Was there any common denominators?
Shana, do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, totally. So when you sign up to unregistered to go to the moon, you could fill out some surveys and create a star profile for yourself. And what we see, and we even sent out some questions to understand why everyone was excited about going on this. And some of the common things that we see most is, one is a lot of people are like, I've always wanted to go to space, huge fan, and this is the closest that I know of so far that I'll be able to do in this lifetime. So that's the number one reason. Another common denominator is around people who are family oriented and are going together with their families, or are sending up their DNA. So for generations to come can look up and say, hey, there's my grandpa on the moon. So that's another common denominator. And then lastly is people are, wanting to leave their legacy in some way, shape, or form. And so those are some of the core things we see is what's common in the group of people who are part of the LifeShip crew.
Awesome. And just another one from the chat here that that we've actually been talking about behind the scenes a bit. Is there a possibility for a Facebook group from people on the launch? And I think the answer to that is yes. This community event that we're doing now is hopefully the first of many, and we'll be hopefully getting you some news on that soon. We have Barry here with a question. If you can unmute yourself. Hi.
Hi, greetings from Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. If we send a picture up, is there any way to associate specifically that picture with the specific DNA? If we can get it out of the soup and connect the two?
Not currently. In the future, we will probably do a short sequence of DNA and be able to match that up, and not do the full sequence, but do like a barcode sequence. But we're not currently sequencing the DNA. So the pictures go up there both in a digital format on the storage device, and we're printing them or saving them in DNA also. So we're storing the pictures in DNA. So they get stored in both formats, but they're not connected to your exact DNA.
Righty.
What is the reason for sending DNA to the International Space Station? Good question, William. So we want to show progress. We want to, as much about providing a backup and sending the DNA outwards, it's also to engage people in space. And the space station is one of the objects you can see with your naked eye in the sky. And so it is an exciting thing to be part of. And yeah, and it's a more predictable mission. We know it'll go off at the right time. And we are building an off-world biobank, and it makes sense to have one of the copies on the space station, I feel.
Alrighty, can a lunar location pin be posted when we've reached the final resting location on the moon?
Yes, and there's actually on our website, there's a missions tab on the top now, and that says the location. Mission 1 is Lacus Mortis, and you can go to that, and then mission 2 is Mare Crisium, and both of those are locations on the moon, and those locations are written on our website under the missions tab. But yeah, we plan on sending a mission certificate to you with a pin on the location where you are, and having all your launch details and the landing details and where it is. So you'll get a digital mission certificate after it goes that says where and when it is.
Absolutely, and it looks really cool to be able to see that point on the moon also. Trevor has his hand up. Trevor, I saw you ask a couple questions earlier, so hi.
Yeah, I've thrown a few in there, but they're all kind of goofy. Thank you, Chris, and thanks, Ben, for hosting us, and Shayna, too. One of the things that I imagine the astronauts in the ISS experience is that they're accepting a lot of like vials, disks, manifests, like small USB keys. What is the process like of like, do you like stash a secret note in with the disk? And it's like, astronauts, open this and like read this in front of a camera when you're doing stories from space? Or do you get a chance to like prepare astronauts? Does it depend who you know? How do you get some publicity while you're up there on the space station?
So we didn't pay for astronaut time. I think astronaut time is $100,000 per hour. And so if you want to get a picture with astronauts to show it, then you have to pay for 5 minutes of time or whatever. So we didn't pay for that. So they won't even, their time is very structured and strict. So it's in a container. They may not even open the container and see it, but they transfer the container to where it's supposed to go and then put in the storage. And yeah, I don't think they just sort through the random stuff.
Look what I found. Have you guys seen this? This is a LifeShip. There's DNA in here. How much does the DNA, and maybe it's hard to separate it from the epoxy, how much does it weigh?
Yeah, it's tiny. It's micrograms, I think, of DNA to send lots of it. Our whole payload is 3 grams, which is, yeah, less than the weight of a quarter, because it's an aluminum thing the size of a quarter.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Trevor. Another question from Jeff from Canada. He asked if it's too late to add a picture, send a picture to the moon.
Yeah, so we just opened up adding a picture. You can go on our website, and I think it's under gear right now, but if you go under the shop tab on the top and then gear, right now picture is $14, I believe, to add a picture.
Awesome. And from Madeline, is there any way we can see what the capsule looks like? Actually, if you go to our social media, any of our social media pages now and scroll back maybe a week or two, you'll see a photo of the capsule. But it looks really cool. And like Ben said, it's about the size of a quarter. It's a pretty cool creation we have there.
And I think it was shared in our last email update. Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
There's a picture with the International Space Station, and then a picture of the. Oh, but that might have. Yeah, it's possible that wasn't in every email.
Oh, will DNA be open for use in testing or future trips to other planets?
Trevor's got it as his background, but Trevor's blocking.
Oh, look, Trevor's.
You're
look at Trevor's box. That's
there. So there's a little metal disc on the red background, and that's the actual capsule on the way to the International Space Station. Thanks, Trevor.
Cool. Thanks, Trevor. Lost my place there. Hold on. Sorry. Will the DNA be open?
Any questions we've missed that are burning? What was that?
We have one from Kevin here saying, will DNA be open for use in testing or future trips?
So we won't sequence or test or do anything with your DNA. We can't guarantee what the aliens will do with it. But we are saving copies, backup copies to send on of the whole DNA soup to send on future missions. And we are planning a number of future missions. It's not, yeah, if we do Mars, that might be a different mission that people join. We're not sure exactly, but we're also, yeah, we're working on geostationary and being on other low Earth orbit ones, and then deep space ones as well. But for now, it's just going to the space station and the moon. And then we'll deal with the other missions as we get to them.
Awesome. We have time for one more, maybe? This is kind of a cool one. Would we consider sending MP3 music? One of the things that we've hit on social a couple of times and that we've talked about as a team is sort of the inspiration from Voyager. And I always thought it was so cool how they included like music of the time on that. So this is from Brenda. Have you considered putting MP3 music on it? She'd love to send some of her original music to the moon.
Yeah, we would like to add videos and music and ways to add a little voice clip and send your voice clip and music. And we are also working on NFTs and NFTs that could be connected to music or other things. And NFTs are a thing kind of like cryptocurrencies, if you're not familiar, but a way of having a unique token that symbolizes what that's connected to any work of art or anything. And so we're working on those.
Awesome. Well, we're coming up on time. This was a lot of fun. Really cool to put a face to everybody.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for being here. We're gonna do more, and they won't just be AMAs. We wanna create community engagement and get people to have fun and share with each other. And so yeah, come back even if we answered all your questions, and look forward to continuing to grow this and yeah, making space exciting for everyone. And we really hope to over deliver on this and really bring everyone along on the mission. And thanks for being one of our earlier supporters and being part of it. Our goal is to get millions of people to the stars and all of Earth's species.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for being here today. And thank you, Ben, for answering all the questions. Kind of put you in the hot seat there, but this was awesome, I think, for everybody. I can't wait to do another one of these soon. So everybody, if you don't already follow us on social media, make sure to do so that you don't miss out on another community event like this. If you're not signed up for our mailing list, same thing. We send out similar stuff on both. So you'll never miss anything if you're following all of those pages. And we can't wait to do another one of these. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this event, but also just LifeShip in general. It's really, really awesome.